the vault. High atop the pastoral center of the Diocese of Camden, you're listening to Talking Catholic.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Talking Catholic, the official Catholic podcast of the Diocese of Camden. Marianela Nunez, and with you also is the Director of Communications for the Diocese of Camden, Mike Walsh. Hey, Mike, how are you?
I am well, and yourself? We're recording this on a rare, incredibly warm day. We're actually recording this a little bit ahead of when it's going to come out. I think this episode is going to come out on March 22nd. I went outside and took a selfie outside because it was 70 degrees and gorgeous. I'm sure by the time this is airing, it's going to be 43 degrees and frigid.
I'll make sure I take my selfie today too, Mike.
But that being said, it does mean that we're inching that much closer to spring. So I am looking forward to that. Actually, by the time this airs, I think it'll be, well, I don't know, will it be spring yet? It won't be spring yet, but we'll getting closer to spring. So Marianela, how was the last time we spoke? We talked a little bit about your new role within the diocese as the Director of Enrollment. How has that been going since these last few months?
It's going great. And, especially when you have, a year where, the news are positive for us in many ways. I think, it's an exciting time, to be the Director of Enrollment. There's a lot of hope for Catholic education these days, and we want to continue that trend. And, that's why particularly I'm excited about this podcast today, because we have amazing guests coming up.
Yeah, I know. You invited two people onto the show that are, I would say, experts in their field and have both done remarkable work, one from the elementary school level and one from the high school level. So I say, let's not let me eat up all of the podcast time as usual. Marianela, can you introduce who's joining us today?
Yes, so we have from our elementary school side, Betty Kuvinka, who is the Director of Enrollment for Our Lady of Hope School in Blackwood. Welcome, Betty.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Yes, and representing our high school side of the spectrum, we have with us Kate Bieg, who is the Director of Marketing and Communications for Camden Catholic. Welcome, Kate.
Thank you so much. I'm honored to be here.
So good that you guys are here, and especially, now that I get to connect with you in so much, many ways, and it's exciting to see what you do every day in and out to promote our schools and to make sure that we have many families that we're serving, through the Catholic education that we provide in the diocese. So thank you for all you do.
So I guess, my first question is, and it's sort of an open-ended one, personally and sort of professionally, is the both of you. We should, if anyone is not aware, Catholic schools have been back in session 5 days a week since the beginning of September. We've talked about it a couple of times at the administrations of both the diocese and all of our schools, and the faculty and staff and volunteers and parents and students have gone to incredible lengths to be able to open up for 5 day a week in-school learning, which has been outstanding and is something that I've requested the superintendent of schools to write many a white paper on soon, because I think we should be explaining to everyone how it is in fact possible, and not only possible, but able to do it successfully. So I guess sort of the first question I'll ask you, and Kate, we'll start with you. As a professional in a Catholic high school, how are you feeling about how the school sort of weathered the last year? It's almost 1 year ago today when we're recording this that everything slammed shut and we all went home and we moved to remote learning. So how have you been?
We've been amazing. I am just incredibly proud of how both our students and our faculty has responded, led by our administration. And you can't forget the parents either, because they are the ones filling out those COVID questionnaires every morning and, driving the kids to school because we may have lost busing in their district. Or, for the kids who might be on their cohort week remotely, they're making sure the internet's working properly for them. But we've just done an amazing job. And like I mentioned, the administration's really led us to this point, and assisted by a task force of board of trustee members and administration, we've been able to open safely and have no in-school cases in terms of passing COVID at school, but all the instances where we've had any cases, they've come from out of school. or exposure at other activities. So we've done an awesome job, and I'm really, really proud of everybody who's been a part of it.
It's been phenomenal. What about you, Betty? How's it been on the elementary side?
I have to agree that starting with the administration, families, our staff, our teachers are rock stars. They have just really gone above and beyond to make sure that every student is taken care of throughout this time. We started with probably a third of our students that were on remote, and each quarter we are seeing less and less students on remote because families are feeling much better about the safety of our schools. They're seeing that we are following protocols, and it really is wonderful to see these kids back in school, and they are really excited to be back in school as well.
That's great. I guess we should probably give a little bit of background in terms of what each of your schools look like right now. So, Betty, tell us what Our Lady of Hope, like what is their daily sort of weekly schedule for students being in the school, and what do you have to do to do that? Like, what happens when the kids arrive?
Well, when they arrive, the car in our car line, we have several of our staff members that are out there taking temperatures. So before the students get out of the car, they have a temperature check. And as they are entering the building, we have them separated from the kindergarten through fifth graders go in one door, and then the middle school students go through another door. And it's a staggered arrival time. So anywhere between 7:15 and 7:50, parents know that there's a certain time that they drop their children off in the morning. And once they get in, they're sanitizing their hands and they go into the classrooms. But we began the school year using the Google Classroom platform, and that was for in-school as well as remote students. So the students get on to homeroom first thing in the morning, and we're mimicking the day with the remote students as what was going on in the classroom. So the students are a part of the class throughout the day. So there's not a difference for when we go remote or when they're here in class. They have the same schedule.
Okay. And in terms of the format of your classrooms, I'm sure they've changed a bit from last year to this year. You've done the full, you got the partitions up and all that stuff?
Yes. We've have the shields around the desks. They're 4 to 6 feet apart, and the students are wearing their masks. And, it's amazing that I think that was one of the biggest fears that we had, that we weren't going to be able to let this little ones, especially, to keep the masks on all day long. But they're the ones that are surprising us the most, that they're doing the double checks with the older kids, like mask up. So it's good to see that they are really embracing
the mask. Yeah,
exactly.
It's across the board, Betty.
So how about you, Kate? What's it like at Camden Catholic? You guys have a slightly different setup, right?
We do. And we actually filmed a video probably about a week before school started in September, so that we could sort of illustrate what school was going to look like for everyone. Because obviously we're dealing with, a much larger number of kids than the average grammar school in the diocese. So we have 2 entrance doors, temperature checks upon arrival. We have one-way hallways, no lockers. So the kids are carrying their backpacks, and they're also carrying their own shields because, again, different than grammar school, they are going to 8 different periods a day in different rooms. We've also split up our lunches so that half are in the dining hall, half are in the gym. And we have sort of like spots marked on the bleachers in the gym so that the students are socially distanced. And we also have, just decals all over the building, outside the bathroom, outside the guidance office, marking where you're to stand if you're waiting in line. And of course, same deal, no one is anywhere in the building without a mask. And hand sanitizer stations everywhere. The water stations are, you're not allowed to drink out of the water fountain, just fill your water bottle with it. And, the teachers are always remain at least 6 feet from their student, and they have a special shield in front of them as well. And definitely, we've always used technology, but huge increase in that this year. Because our students are allowed to choose to either be 100% remote, because we know everybody has a different family situation. Besides the 100% remote students, at the beginning of the school year, we started with 4 cohorts divided by the alphabet. And each of those cohorts took 1 week at a time at home, full remote. So that alleviated crowding in the hallways, crowding in classrooms, things like that, because we did get a large increase sort of late in the admission cycle, I'll say, when when certain families realized their school district might not be in session fully in person. So we had to sort of keep adjusting our plans. And the safest one that we settled on was this cohort model, where 25% of the student body stays home for 1 week at a time. But given the number of kids at this point in the school year that have chosen full remote, we're actually getting rid of that cohort model as of March 29th. So the students now who want to be here can come, which is great.
And that option was available at all of our schools. If the families decided that they thought remote learning would be the best for their situation, all the schools provided that, which I know a great many of the parents did, but not so many that, like you said, Kate, a little later in the year for you, but it ended up becoming a benefit to those who wanted to be in-person class, because we were able to sort of provide that, and it gave us a little bit more space. Both of you, and Kate, that actually touches on something I wanted to ask Marianela about enrollment. So I get this question constantly from the media, is like, are you seeing your numbers exploding this year because you guys are in school as opposed to fully remote, like a lot of the public schools in our area? And I know the numbers suggest that we're not exactly exploding, but there has been an increase. How is enrollment doing across the board, Marianela?
So, there's been an increase in specific schools, not across the board, definitely. You know that with the COVID-19 limitations, the schools, couldn't take some of the families that actually were interested in getting a Catholic education in person, and that, wanted that to happen. So, some of those schools still have a waiting list, and the registrations are really going great. Actually, today I, was reporting on re-registrations and how they're going for, the elementary school levels. And we've seen an enormous increase in terms of, where we were last year on re-registrations. We are up 1,500 more students re-registered at this point than we were last February of 2020. So the re-registration is looking great for Catholic schools, this time, and we're hopeful that that trend will continue, because a lot of the families that came just because of the pandemic are actually staying with us because they have tasted how good being in a Catholic school is. So I think part of that we owe to the great work the advancement directors and principals and teachers are doing to keep our families, to retain those families, and so give them the best service that they expect from us, and that, the best education that their children can receive. So definitely in terms of enrollment, I would say up to 2% increase compared to the NCEA count. Is that huge?
And NCA stands for what?
National Catholic Education Association. Sorry, listeners, I'm talking jargon here. Mike's correcting me. So it's kind of like an exciting year, as I was saying at the beginning, in terms of enrollment and the hope that we have to keep those families. And we've seen that the families are rushing to re-register now because they want to make sure that they have that spot for next year, because they could be on the waiting list if they wait too long, and that's what they don't want. So thank you to all the advancement directors for the work, and the principals as well, putting that word out.
And that's actually a great transition. So that's really what we wanted to talk about today. I wanted to give a little history for anybody who might be asking questions about, what the schools are like right now. But we asked these two on in particular because we wanted to talk about marketing and communications related to the schools. And both of these schools do a phenomenal job in that. As a matter of fact, I am neither a graduate of Our Lady of Hope nor am I a graduate of Camden Catholic. I am a graduate of each of their competitors, as a matter of fact. And yet, even I must say, as a non-alumnus, that both schools do a phenomenal job with marketing to families in their regions. So, Kate, from a Camden Catholic standpoint, I mean, you guys are constantly putting out magazine quality, high-end video quality productions. But give me an idea of what your role is and what you really are trying to foster at Camden Catholic.
So my role generally is, the overall marketing and public relations of the institution, which is interesting. I've been in this business, quote unquote, business of marketing for a long time now, and longer than I'd like to say. But I've worked on sort of the for-profit side of things and luxury retail and things like that. I've worked in the nonprofit side of things at if anyone knows, the Atwater Kent Museum, and then changed their name to the Philadelphia History Museum. And then I came here. So working for like a mission-driven organization is absolutely amazing. And I also went here. And I'm third generation Camden Catholic grad. So I sort of, like we like to say around here, I bleed green. There's a lot of us here that do that. But it's interesting because we are the oldest high school in the diocese. And we've been around since 1887. So that equates to, probably about 15,000 alumni. And that's a lot of people to reach. So we try and do it in a lot of different ways. And I started to say how long I've been in the business because I've seen sort of this shift from print media and a little more traditional PR to this explosion of social media and a lot of there's really good things about it, and then there's a lot of really bad things about it. But the way to reach people has changed so much, and our consumer is just so distracted. So it's a real challenge, but at the same time, it's really fun to get creative. And so, like I said, we've used print. We do an annual CCHS magazine, which is such an amazing project, and our alumni love to see it. But it's been a great challenge this year to try and reach those families to share all that Camden Catholic has to offer when we're not able to see them in person. Because I do have an admissions director here, and we have our president, Mary Whipke, who is the head of fundraising. But it's been quite a year to try and figure out how can we get to these people when we can, maybe we can host a really small open house. Maybe we can't. Maybe people are scared to come out. Maybe they're wondering why we're not hosting them or whatever it is. But so far, we're doing a really good job, and we've been able to really diversify our efforts between in-person events, very small ones, virtual events, and then just adding on to our website so that the information's there for anybody who's looking for it.
I have to say, as the father of a seventh grader, I'm happy to report that it was Camden Catholic was the first one to reach out to my son for virtual tours. My son, you guys were the first one to send him a Christmas card of all of the schools. You guys have been ahead of the game. So your enrollment plan, Marianela, as you well know, Camden Catholic does a phenomenal job with their enrollment. So,
I do know that.
So kudos to that. And so, Betty, what about from the elementary school side? Like, what's your role, and how are you able to help the school?
Well, in my role is mostly enrollment, but it does entail the fundraising end of things as well as the marketing and communication. And I myself am not a product of this community's Catholic education. My children did not go to school here as well. So my philosophy over the years, and I too have been in this business for more years than I like to share, but from what I have learned over the years is that word of mouth has been the best way to get the information across. I came into our system with having the information about our graduates, but because we're an elementary school, we know where they went to high school. So beyond that is the information is we're really just beginning to be able to connect with alumni from Our Lady of Hope Regional School. St. Jude and St. Agnes were the schools that combined in 2008, and we have those graduates that are now, their children are old enough now to begin school. So we're getting a lot of those families that are coming back. But one of the things that I really love that we can do is we are part of the regional parishes. The parishes of Our Lady of Hope Parish, St. Charles Borromeo, the Church of the Holy Family, and Saints Peter and Paul are the areas where I always felt that each of those parishes have so many children in the age group that we're looking for, that was the focus that I had in why not try to get some of these families into our schools. So we work very closely with the parishes, and I have to say this year, our pastors and the parish staff members have done a phenomenal job of reaching out to their parishioners, or if their parishioners have come to them, said, you need to go see Betty at Our Lady of Hope. And it's been wonderful that with our RenWeb and fax system that we use for our database student information system, there is an option to create an inquiry form. So I have had every family that's ever called, I would say just go on our website, complete the inquiry form, and that way I had enough information about every family, what child, who their children are, what grade they're looking for. Since March of last year, we started to receive like more than 150 inquiries like immediately for this current school year. And trying to keep up with all of them was, we don't have the room. So trying to get back to each of them was a lot easier because I could send a blast email out and say, I will contact you as soon as I know a space is available. And then they were contacting me and saying, I haven't heard from you, and it's like, well, because there's not a space available. But I would say, are you interested in for the next year? So as they would tell me they were interested for the next school year, I was updating their information. So this year, what we did was we too, it's hard to have these regular open houses like we normally would do. So every week I'm having an informational Zoom meeting for all the inquiries that from the previous week. I will email them and say, please join us on Tuesday night at 6:00, and we'll go over the school information. And then during the Zoom, as we're talking, of course, it's a nice back and forth question and answer period. And I'll just ask them, please email me if you are, after what you've heard, you're still interested. And that's what they're doing is they're emailing me, I'm sending them the enrollment packet, and we're getting the applications immediately. I can probably count on one hand how many families that have attended our meetings that have not applied yet.
Wow.
So we're seeing that increase.
That's awesome.
Marianela, I'm curious, so we have two of our representative schools on the podcast right now, but in the diocese, we have 36 schools altogether, I think. In your rounds around the diocese, is what you're hearing similar in other schools in terms of what they've been doing and trying to make sure that they're engaging with not only their current populations, but their external populations?
Yeah, there's a lot of, online stuff happening these days in Catholic schools, and kind of like our schools have been adapting and in so many ways. And we were sort of like moving into that direction before the pandemic, but definitely this year really made a push for it and made it happen. And it's real now. And I think, after this year, these new things that we are implementing, like, more Zoom meetings with parents, like, more online events are going to continue to be a thing, because now we know how to do it. We have experience and we have talented people that, are welcoming those ideas. So I think that's been a great learning curve for us as, the Catholic school family. And I actually was going to ask the two of them, Betty and Kate. This year, we've had many teachers in our podcast. We've had principals here too to share their experiences with COVID, and we're kind of like tired of COVID, and everybody is at this time. But we do want to hear from you how the pandemic has changed, your sort of like your daily operations as a advancement director and as a communications and marketing person, Kate. And we'll start with you.
It's sort of sad, like I can't pop into classes as much anymore because you don't want, they're careful with who the kids are really around. And, trying to photograph the students and making sure they're socially distant, or if it's just one student and I'm far enough away from them, I'll say, you're allowed to take your mask off. I'm 10 feet away from you. And it would be a much better picture if we did that. And then there's certain events where, and I'm a parent of 4 children. My oldest is in 7th grade. And so I feel like, for instance, our National Honor Society, we did here with our kids in the auditorium. They were each, very far apart from each other, but no parents were allowed to come. So I'm thinking, oh my gosh, we have to film this. We have to live stream it. And then I said, how about we set up a step and repeat like I have behind me, and we take a photo of each of the students with their certificate, send it to their parent, blah, blah, blah. And the parents were just, because I feel like, you get, when you're a parent yourself, you're thinking, if I can't be there, what would I want? Mm-hmm. So that's how we did it. And the parents, and I was able to send the photos home that night. And the parents were they were, really sad they couldn't be there, but so appreciative that we were able to try and share that moment with them as much as possible. We did the same thing with our ring masks. And the kids were happy to be photographed. And I think despite all the losses of the past year, the students are so resilient. And I know they're tired. Everyone's tired of hearing that, but they really are. And they are making the best of it. They are grateful for any moment that they get. And they're looking forward to hopefully, fingers crossed, that by the end of the school year, we can have some of these really important events that we missed last year take place. So it's definitely been a challenging year, but they're used to the masks. I've filmed videos with classes with them masked up. I can hear them fine. Certain things that you really thought as a communications person were going to be these huge barriers, we were able to, they work. It's okay. We can do it. So it's been okay.
How about you, Betty?
Well, the same thing. It has been sad. For me personally, that I miss my student ambassadors. Our student ambassadors have been the ones who were able to walk through the halls during the day with prospective families, show them around. And it was always such a wonderful thing that the new families would feel so great about how well prepared our students are and how much knowledge they had about the school and all the exciting stories, personal stories they had to share with these families. And they're not able to do that right now. So I try to remember some of the stories so that I can share with these families. So it's after school, I'm taking one family at a time through the building, and it's a little different, but we're still going through those processes. And as Kate was saying too, it's the things that you can share with the families of what's going on in the classrooms that they miss. It's the social media, it's the newsletters, the things that we can put that information out there of what is happening with our students. We missed out on concerts this year, so we had a student talent show, and we were able to share those videos with our families, and that just whatever we can do to make things a little bit more fun, that we kind of try to forget that we're masked up and walking 6 feet away from each other, but we're making the best of it.
You know, I remember back in the day, pre-COVID, I always worried about the people who couldn't be at certain events. So as a matter of fact, Kate, I remember working with some of your fellow staff people because we were looking into the possibility of live streaming the graduation last year using our live stream gear because we had gotten pretty good at it. And then, of course, COVID hit and everything shut down. So there were no graduations, not in the traditional sense anyway. So we weren't able to do it. But it got me to thinking that I'll never have to worry about that again because everybody's an expert on how to live stream an event or an assembly. I mean, you'll be able to live stream plays for parents who can't be there, or at least record them and send them out later. You'll be able to, every sporting event should be able to be live streamed at this point, or at least maybe not every single one of them, but championship ones, things like that, maybe. As someone who has to live stream everything, I know it can be taxing to live stream everything.
Well, and actually the copyrights on the plays, we won't be able to do that.
Oh, that's right.
Is another thing I learned this year. And even with some of the hymns at church and things like that, our arts director, Greg Gardner, will say, hold on, I have to buy the rights if we're going to put this on YouTube. So that's sort of something nice I can add to my resume.
That's right.
You know that, right?
We all know about music licensing.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But now, I mean, there's like, I look forward to seeing in next year, or even this year for that matter, when some of those big events start happening again, that we will be able to live stream. Because there were several times in my own son's life I wasn't able to attend something. I remember wishing that someone had, like, they could have recorded it, or now they can do a live stream. I'm very excited about that. Certainly not the plays. That's a bummer, but everything else would be good. So I think that's an interesting thing, that we all now have these incredible skill sets. I mean, for that sense of loss we've had this year, which I think we all feel all the time. It's that so many new skill sets, and the fact that so many new. I mean, we all had to do it. I was just writing a letter today about where I reference Zoom, which we're on right now. And how, like, within 2 days of shutting down the diocese, or shutting down the diocesan offices, I had a Zoom call with my staff, and none of my staff had ever used Zoom before. I'd only used it by accident, a few months earlier. And we are now all. I can give Zoom webinars. I can do everything. So it's amazing.
Yeah, you know what? Actually, Mike, just picking up on what you said about the losses, I just had the same thought. There's so much attention that our students that are with us now are getting, especially when it comes to making sure that they feel special in any way. And I think we're going above and beyond what a regular year is about. So I think they have lost some things, but they have also gained, and our families as well. So that's important to recognize, thanks to the efforts of everybody involved. So I just thank everybody for making it happen.
Yeah. So let's talk about Catholic schools in general, absent COVID and everything we've been through. The four of us on a regular basis are pitching Catholic schools and to one degree or another. Betty, what is it, do you think, about Catholic schools that resonates with people, and for people who don't understand it, what they should know about Catholic schools and why it should be someplace that parents consider sending their kids?
Right. Well, number one, I think that it's a place where families know that they can have their children come here, first of all, feel safe. But as I'm talking to some prospective families now, I realize that because we get to know our students, to be known is a big deal. And I know we're, not a huge elementary school. We're one of the larger ones for our area, but not, as big as some of the high schools. But it just to get to know each of these students, the tradition of just practicing our faith, to be able to say a prayer, to be able to say the Pledge of Allegiance. These are all things that we might take for granted in our schools, but when a parent hears of the traditions that we have and our buddy system of getting our younger ones to learn to know who the older ones are, and we go to mass together, or we have special times together. It's those things that really make a difference that parents are not seeing in other schools. I hear a lot from our transfer families that there is a difference in the atmosphere. It's a place, again, that they feel safe and they can talk about God, and we talk freely about Jesus being your friend, and just it's just a different atmosphere that we can do in a Catholic school.
Yeah. How about you, Kate, from or rather Marianela? How about from the larger area? When you're out at the other schools, what do you hear? Well, actually, I don't even. You talk about it from your own perspective. You're a parent of someone who's in Catholic schools, and you've certainly been within the Catholic schools a lot. What about it sort of appeals to you that you think ought to be appealing to other people?
Well, I'll tell you a story about my son, who is, not still in Catholic school. He's pre-K and he didn't go to school this year. But, from his sister, who is at Resurrection right now, he's learned, how to sing in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. You need to see that video, Mike.
Sounds adorable.
It's just the little things that, we say grace before we eat. And if I forget, they will remind me. And it's kind of like you are really raising children that have faith. And faith is something that is so hard to sort of like give to people as they are, more older. So I think it is very important to do it, in increasingly as they, are growing up. And I see that as a parent, and I am in love with that, because I haven't had, Mariana at any other place. Like, she's been in Catholic school since she's only a kindergartner. So she's being with Catholic schools since pre-K. And it's a beautiful experience as a parent to know that your kids are being taught by people of faith that believe, in our Catholic values, and that also are teaching with love, because, God is about love. And so that's what we want our schools to be. And I think that's what we are. There is a Catholic school experience. I hear a lot of parents saying, my kids are, kinder to each other when they go to a Catholic school. Like, they know how to behave better. I hear on the high school level, I know if a child went to a Catholic high school by the way they sit down in an interview, or, the way they speak, or the way they dress, and, their haircuts, not that we are perfect in any ways, because only God's perfect, but we really strive for perfection because that's what we are called to be. And so we try to do that not only through our values, but also academically, because, we are supposed to give the best of ourselves, and that's what we are trying to push in our children and the families that are part of us. So not only the kids learn, but the families too.
I have to admit that I'm thrilled because my son goes to my alma mater, my elementary school alma mater. Used to be St. Catherine of Siena School. It's now St. Michael the Archangel School. It was never even a question as to whether or not he would go there or somewhere else. But I will tell you that something happened just recently that kind of shook me to my core. And this might actually upset Kate a little bit. So my son let us know that he was really interested in, and he really seems interested in cooking, right? And he's talked to us a couple of times about maybe going to culinary school at some point. I'm thinking like college or something like that. He goes, no, Dad. The public school, the vocational public school, has a culinary institute, and I could go there. It cut me to the core. I was like, "What, boy? You're not going to a public school. That is not going to happen." because it's quite upsetting to me. And no Walsh has ever gone to a public school before. That's not even an option. You'll go to any place other than a public school. So it was quite shocking to me to hear him say that. And it was a visceral reaction because so my mom went to public school, but she ended up she was a teacher in Catholic school for 30 years at Gloucester Catholic. And my father went to Catholic school, and he was a public school teacher for 40 years at Buena Regional School District. There was never a question as to whether or not I would be going to a Catholic school. So I sat my son down and said, listen, Jack, I will get you a job at a restaurant where you can start by washing dishes and working your way up. But you'll be enjoying one of our fine Catholic institutions somewhere. I'm not sure where. Kate might be able to convince my son to go to Camden Catholic. But the sad part is we have such great Catholic high schools in South Jersey. There's so many. We're a target-rich environment when it comes to young Catholics to bring in, which kind of brings me back to Kate. How do you convince kids who have come out of either our regular elementary schools, our Catholic elementary schools, or as public elementary schools to come to someplace like Camden Catholic?
That's a good question, and a timely one, because tonight we're actually hosting a virtual Q&A targeted towards public school students. So we've tried over this past year and pre-COVID, our admissions director would actually be able to go to all of our grammar schools in the diocese, which was a great way to connect with those 8th grade students, and also even the 8th grade teachers to at least get to know them, share what our mission is, share how we might be different than some of the other Catholic high school options or the students' local public high school option. And over the course of pre-COVID, over the course of an academic year, our admissions director would probably actually see the 8th grade students in the diocese. They might come here up to like 6 times to Camden Catholic. So that's a huge void for us this year. And although we've tried to reach out directly, to the schools and to the students, the grammar schools have a lot on their plate this year. The principals are really stretched. The teachers are really stretched, trying to, teach virtual and in the classroom at the same time. So we are giving them, respectfully their space. And like I said earlier, trying to make our website more robust for when these students and their parents are ready to look at it. The information is readily available for them. So we're emailing them, we're posting on social media, we're trying to just share the Camden Catholic story and share what the high school experience will be like for them once they come here. And also just trying to make the kids feel comfortable about who we are and how safe, and Betty mentioned that earlier, the safety of a Catholic school. I have, like I mentioned, my kids are in a Catholic school in the diocese and grammar school, and we had a really unfortunate thing happen last week in our community. And actually, a 7th grade student had just transferred into St. Rose. And the principal of St. Rose spoke to the parents of the student to try and ease their fears about what had recently taken place. And the mom called me and she just said, I'm ready. She said, I don't typically go to church. I'm ready to go to church again. I feel so comforted by Deacon's message to me, and I was really at a loss, and I'm just so lucky we made this decision. So I think there's a lot of kids out there who are hurting right now, and who mental health and social emotional well-being is more important than ever during this pandemic, because these kids, and especially sort of that middle school, the high school age group, they need socialization, and they need, we love to say our students who come here, I know we talked about it earlier with, they might not be Catholic, but they're going to get a sense of faith, and they're going to get a moral compass without a doubt. They're going to graduate with that. And, besides the old school Catholic values of respect and discipline and all of that, they're definitely going to graduate with a sense of faith, even if they aren't Catholic. And we've certainly had kids who have come here and, converted and gone through the RCIA, which is just amazing to see.
That is really wonderful. I have to give credit to Camden Catholic in particular that you are one of the most diverse populations in the diocese, and but also one of the truly great populations. It's a fantastic school that really goes out of their way to support their students and their, every time I walk through there, like I said, I went to a competing school, which I won't mention, but I remember one of the first times I went through that. I remember calling my mom and saying shortly thereafter, going, "Why did I not go to Camden Catholic? This place is beautiful." So I regret that a little bit.
Just so that I just wanted to mention, like, for those listeners that we have out there that don't know how many high schools do we have, so I'm just going to mention their names and just say that we all follow the same curriculum, but there's basically each of those high schools have their own flavor. So you go and taste the flavor and see what you like. And, definitely, I am part of the Camden Catholic community as a board member as well. And I know all the great work they do. But we also have in our diocese, Gloucester Catholic High School, we have Paul VI, we have Holy Spirit High School, and we have Walwood Academy as well, as options for everybody to look into if you didn't know the names. So there we are, and they all have beautiful websites to go into and dig into the information that they have, and people that are waiting for you to enroll and, sort of like live the Catholic school experience.
And that really is a great way of describing it, is each of those schools are very much different flavors. Because, I mentioned before Jack's in 7th grade, so we're looking at different places. And in my mind, I'm already like, well, so Jack has another sort of year, but, if he's, I'm going to ultimately, believe it or not, I'm going to let him, except for that once, Kate had to step away for a minute. So she didn't hear my rant on my son almost breaking my heart by saying he wanted to go to a public school because they had a culinary school. Just out of curiosity, does Camden Catholic have anything culinary related on its docket? I'll understand if you say no.
We do not. But interestingly enough, we just embarked on a research project with a local marketing firm, and we are researching Gen Alpha, which is basically those kids who are sort of kindergarten to age 10 right now. And it's super interesting, especially because I have 2 children who are in that age bracket. And then I have kids who are not in that age bracket, and I can certainly see a difference. But the students in our admissions director even said the other day, he was giving a tour to someone, and the student said to him, "Well, do I have to take chemistry?" It's like these kids are growing up, and everything's very individualized. Yeah. And that's why some of these technical high schools are really, their admissions are booming. Enrollment's booming for them because they have these individual programs. So no, we don't have a culinary class, but perhaps after our research is done with Gen Alpha and we fundraise for a new building on our campus, maybe we will add that in. But it's nothing's not under consideration. I mean, this generation that's coming up is going to, the way they want to be educated is going to change how we do things.
In conversations I've had with the superintendent of schools and a number of the other education leaders around here, that's exactly, like, in a lot of ways, not just the difference in generation, but also the COVID times we've gone through has caused us to rethink like everything. And I have no doubt in my mind that things may change in the upcoming years as to how education in general, not even just Catholic education in general, may change for the better, because we've seen that what we were sort of locked into, what we always sort of knew to be the scenario, doesn't necessarily have to be the scenario here. So now, just to let you know, Kate, as someone who's a baker and would have loved to have worked in a restaurant at one point in his life, I will definitely donate to any culinary school options that you guys consider.
There you go.
So you got your first donor, Kate.
Awesome.
But Betty, I mean, kind of from your perspective, in terms of different flavors and stuff like that, what is the flavor of Our Lady of Hope? Like, can you tell us a little bit about your community?
Well, our community is quite diverse in the types of families that are here. They're mostly from the local area, but they really, we don't have as, many different types of families, but they're from our Catholic, majority of them are from the Catholic Church. We do have a handful that are not Catholic, and there are some that come that are not, and as Kate was saying too, that they are very interested in learning the Catholic faith, or they might be of a faith that is very similar to Catholicism, and they really think, this might be because my child is going through this and living this each day, that I'm going to look into this. Or a family that has stepped away from the Catholic Church for a while and realizing that it's important to their children to be a part of some faith community. So it really, we're not that diverse, but we have many of our families that are not of the Catholic faith are really either very strong in their own or are willing to accept and embrace Catholicism.
And that's the nature of all of our elementary schools tend to be like that. They very much are like the local makeup of their town and their region. So the diversity of our schools tends to change from place to place, whereas in our high schools are drawing from such a huge area that you usually find a lot more diversity there.
But, one of the things that I would say about Our Lady of Hope is that, they've been working really hard to help Latino families come into Catholic schools, their Catholic school. And it's been an amazing experience for me as the former Latino Enrollment Initiative consultant to see that in their schools. And they're definitely growing and they're staying. And I think that part of it is just, the principal's desire to serve that population in the ways that they need and with great love and compassion. So I think it's wonderful to see many of my fellow Latino families at Our Lady of Hope.
And thanks to you, Marianela, we were able to do that with all of your help.
I'm ready.
Well, in our last 3 minutes, I just wanted to ask, sort of the future of this year. I am curious. Now, feel free not to don't divulge anything that isn't public yet. But do you guys have a good feel for how you're going to handle graduations this year at both levels? What about you, Kate?
Yeah, I think we do. We've made some tentative plans, and typically we host graduation. We have baccalaureate one night, graduation 2 days later. So I believe we're going to be combining those events, and we're moving both of them to our football field. And I'm assuming it's obviously going to be masked up, COVID pre-screeners and limited attendance. But I think that anything that we can do, parents are going to be really excited for. We've already rented a huge tent to hopefully host some, a spring concert and maybe some other events in the late spring. And unfortunately, we it's like you don't want to get too excited about stuff because things may change. But anyway, things are looking good.
That's good. Well, I actually did hear a little bird told me what one of your graduation plans are. When they told me the plan, I was like, that is brilliant. So just what I've heard so far, it sounds fantastic, Kate. So Betty, what about you?
It's going to be great.
How's graduation looking?
Well, we're trying our tradition of our St. Joseph Mass, that our 8th grade boys are the ones who take care of that Mass. We are going to be at one of our larger regional parishes at Our Lady of Hope Parish, that we were actually going to try to have all of the 8th grade families there spread out, because it's a much larger church than we have here. So we'll see how that works out, and then maybe we can do the same thing for graduation as well. So we're praying for that.
That's fantastic. I'm glad, as usual, we have to sort of fly by the seat of our pants here a little bit when it's coming to planning these things, but that's no different than any other year, to tell you the truth. We just had to be more careful about masks and social distancing. Well, Marianela, thank you very much for putting this on. Betty and Kate, you are true champions of your schools, and I truly appreciate it. I get to work with, I will say that I've worked with Kate a lot. I haven't worked as much with Betty, but I worked with Kate a lot, and she's an absolute joy and really does a phenomenal job at Camden Catholic. And Betty, I know Marianela and Mary Beth Peabody in the school's office speak highly of you all the time. So keep up all the great work that the principals are doing, all the great work that the teachers are doing, all the great work that the families have done so far. So it's really wonderful. So everybody, thank you for joining us today. And to our Talking Catholic listeners, we'll be back next week. Take it easy, everybody.